Today is Monday, June 6, 2006. This is the beginning of an interview with Floyd Pat Williams at the Macomb Catholic Services, 15945 Canal Road, Clinton, Michigan. Pat is 87 years old, born on November 18, 1919 in Detroit, Michigan. My name is Dave Brousseau. I'll be the interviewer, and Mr. Steve Lutz will be the videographer. Pat was part of the Medical Corps, Navy Medical Corps, 113th Seabees, and mustered out as a chief pharmacist mate for World War II. Pat, why don't you give us a little background, where you were born, and how you got into the service in 1942.
I was born in November 18th, 1919, on Clay and Russell. And I went to Debbie High School, and after I got out of high school, I worked for my uncle on Harson's Island. That's a big contractor. And then when the war broke out, there's 3 or 4 of us we all enlisted, but we all enlisted in different branches. And then in May, I enlisted into the Navy. And then I went to Great Lakes for training.
How did you happen to get into the Medical Corps and the Seabees?
Well, when you first go into the Navy, they ask your preference of what you would want to do. And I marked the Medical Corps, and they were always short of corpsmen, so they put me in the Medical Corps. And then after I went through the thing for Medical Corps, I would become a hospital assistant. And then I went through, I worked in Texas, Norman, Oklahoma. Then I applied to go to lab school. I went to lab school in Bethesda, Maryland. And after I got out of lab school, they transferred me to Philadelphia for a little more training, which I didn't get. I was doing everything else but that. And then I went to, then they transferred me into the Seabees, because the Seabees does not have a medical corps, just like the Marines. And then we went through their training, and then we ended up in California, and then we went from California overseas.
How much time lapsed between when you joined the Navy in 42 and when you were shipped overseas?
Oh, about 1.5 years, maybe almost 2 years.
So that's what, 43, almost 44 then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, then you were shipped overseas. Where did you get shipped?
We went on a troop ship. It was it was called the American, with a luxury line, it was a converted. And then we went down all the way across the equator for you pollywogs, and then all the way around into Milne Bay, and we transferred onto a Liberty ship, and we went to Finch Haven. We stayed there, and then when they invaded Hollandia, New Guinea, and we went there, and then we went off the ship about D2, and right into the jungle. And they set up. I set up 3 stations. One at the on board ship, and then one in at another part of the island, and then one in the main ship, which is in a different part. That's where our headquarters is going to be. I had a launch, and then I would go around every day and go to those 3 points.
When you say D2, what do you mean by D2?
When they land, the second day of landing.
I see. Well, what happened after that then? This would have been 1944, maybe?
Yeah, 44, yeah. Then we stayed there for about a year. And then after the year, then they went to the Philippines. In the meantime, there was a lot of little islands around, and they would send small groups, maybe to build a dock or something on this island, and then they would send so many men in it, and the corpsmen would go. I wanted to go, they wouldn't let me go because I was a senior man, I was the lab technician, I was also the pharmacist, because we didn't have a pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor said, you can't go, you got to stay here.
You spoke of that one time where you were in on one of the islands, and you had a priest who,
Yeah.
who handled all of the.
Catholic priest. This priest, in fact, there's a picture of it. We could probably show you later. This priest would say services on weekends for any denomination that was around, and he would say mass for the battalion, then he'd say mass maybe over to the ship or something that came in, or maybe at the PT base, and then at night he'd say mass for the Philippines, or he was in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm. On that same island, you mentioned something about the PT docks.
Yeah.
Is that where the PT boats were headquartered out of?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. First of all, in Hollandia, that was the docks where most of the ships would stop and get ready for the next invasion. And when we landed there, it must have been about the third or fourth day we was there after it got partway set up. I get 2 guards, baseball cap, and a bottle of a sterile bottle. They said, you go take a water analysis. I never took one in my life because I was a medical corpsman. So I went through there with some books and I did the water analysis. And then the 7th Fleet would come in there and get their water, and get supplies of water. Because they didn't make water, but very little in them days.
How close were you to any of the hostile activities that were going on at the time?
At that time, they had one of our dumps, or their dump. It was their dump. They didn't want it. But as soon as they got settled, I was making their rounds one day, and a Japanese plane come over, and I just laid on the. We had one partner. We just laid on the bottom of the ship and he went around. What happened? I think good luck happened. It was we used to call him Wash Machine Charlie. That guy, it was a Japanese invasion plane to go around to check on things.
Medical experiences. You shared with me a specific medical experience that was unusual.
We had lots of cases of malaria. In fact, I caught malaria. And the bacillary dysentery, dengue fever. We had what's called wild disease, which I caught. This is like rats on the docks, and it would urinate like on cereal or something, and they give you that. And it's microscopically, it's just like the spirochete from syphilis. And that stays with you all the time. To this day, they'll not take my blood because of that.
You shared with me another experience with circumcision. How did that go?
Okay, in the early 1900s, a baby was born. He was not circumcised. Now it's just a matter of routine. So over the islands there, just right off the equator, with the humidity and everything, we had a lot of infections. And we had a lot of circumcisions that they had to be done. And one day the doctor, I don't know, maybe he had too much of my alcohol, I don't know. But he got over the other side of the table, he says, here, he used to call me Willie over there, because of Williams. He said, you do it. So I did the circumcision.
Now these were circumcisions done on the troops?
On the troops, yeah. Well, we would take care of everybody down there. I put 12 stitches in one guy's hand one day. the doctor looked at it, he says, "Here, Willie, you do it," because Bob Hope had a show on that day. So I put stitches in his hand, gave him some sulfatazole, because that was before penicillin, and sent him on his way. We had a case of spinal meningitis one day, and then penicillin first come out. So the Army had some. So he says, "Willie, down and see if we get a bottle of it for me." He called ahead. So I got a vial of penicillin, which saved the guy's life. And I come back with 2 armed guards. And after that, it got plentiful. The Navy bought it for 68 cents a vial. And that was good for maybe 4 to 5 shots.
Where did you pick up that Japanese, or that, is it Japanese money that you showed?
Japanese money was in Alambia. There was a Japanese dump. And I went over there one afternoon and kind of salvaged around, see what I could find, you know. And I found this Japanese money. It's a piece of paper. It's worth marked 10 cents. Japanese invasion money for the United States.
But it was all in, it was in U.S.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
All marked things for U.S.
Now from there, where did you go? Because I think you were there through the end of the war, weren't you?
No, then we, after that we went into Mindoro, the Philippines. In fact, I've got that's one of those medals.
Okay, what did you do in there, Philippines?
In the Philippines, we went to the dispensary, and there was also a big tea base there, and the ships would dock, and they did a lot of world work and stuff like that. And that was everybody was getting ready for the invasions at the time, maybe Iwo Jima or something like that. We had pretty easy duty there, and I was there then when the war quit.
Did you tell me you flew over to Japan?
I flew from Mindoro over Corregidor and over the volcano into Manila.
And you mustered out in Manila?
And mustered out in Manila. Then on the way back from Manila to the States, did you ever watch I Got a Secret? Well, I got a secret. I crossed the international date line on my birthday. I had a birthday for, I think, 47 hours because you lose an hour going across.
So you actually had 2 days of birthday? Huh?
2 days of birthday.
What was the experience like going across the equator?
There was so many of us that there was nothing. We didn't even know we were crossing it. Because it was one big troop ship. We just went across on our own. And there was no convoy or anything like that.
So you didn't go through the normal shellback hazing?
No.
Okay, now you've mustered out and you went out looking for a job. What was it like out there looking for a job when you got back?
Well, when I left, I worked for Schaefer's. I was working for Schaefer's Bakery. I was the wholesale bread man. And I thought, well, maybe I can do something with this. So I couldn't get a job as a regular lab technician because I had no college. Although I was registered and everything, it still makes no difference. There's a lot of us around then, you know. So I worked for Park Davis and made me start right on the bottom. I worked as an apprentice.
So none of your experience, I'm sure the experience helped you, but none of it applied toward your hiring.
No, I had my own lab over there in Park Davis. We were making streptomycin. They were just experimenting with it. And I made the streptomycin, and I would write all everything out and give it to the chemical engineers.
What can you tell us about your experience in the service during the war? Is there anything you could tell us that could give us an idea of how you felt about your time in the war and then what it was like after getting back acclimated to civilian life?
Well, first of all, getting acclimated to civilian life, when it come out, you were so used to taking orders, and you were afraid to be a little aggressive when you was looking for a job or something like that. And during the war, I mean, our morale was high. Being at Seabees, we lived pretty good. We had our 3 meals a day, and they even had an ice cream machine. They made it out of powdered milk. But there was no such, eggs were powdered eggs. We had no fresh vegetables like lettuce or anything else like that. And they made their own bread, things like that.
Anything else you'd like to tell us about your experience while you were in the service?
Yeah, I got one more thing that I think would be kind of interesting. Being that I was a lab technician and they made me the pharmacist, I would save a little bit of alcohol, which is 100 proof. And when we got the armistice signed from Japan that the war was over with, I mixed it up with pineapple juice, and anybody in the battalion could come over and have a drink. And the commander or anything never said a word about it, just go ahead. And after the war, we played ball, because there was no construction, so we were quiet too. And we were playing ball and at a tournament, and there was a tree in the way. So they stopped the ball game, they got a couple, 3 big cats and stuff out, knocked the tree down, leveled it off, and we continued playing ball.
Now, at the time that you said you were in Manila, had your 4 years expired?
No.
So you came back to the States, you still had some time left, and that's when you were talking about playing ball. And
no, that was done in when we was in the Philippines.
Okay.
No, I didn't sign up for I signed up for the duration. And then when the war was over with, you were not on the point system. But they froze all the corpsmen. So you had to wait until they got a bunch of these people back and they didn't need us anymore.
So how much time did you spend in the States when you came back? Or did you muster out right away?
We went to San Francisco, and we was there about 3 or 4 days. Then we went right back to your favorite place, Great Lakes, and we got mustered out there.
You brought a lot of medals and pictures that I'd sort of like to have you share with us. Why don't you see if you can hang on to that and kind of explain to us.
Okay. Could we tilt it up just a bit? Okay, if you could share with what they are.
These are my medals my daughter got for me. If you write to your senator, he will get the medals for you. This is for being in World War II. This is for being in American waters, but still in service. That's a good conduct medal, so you didn't get caught. This is Asiatic Pacific, and this carries on the pin carries a star because it was in hostile territory. And this is for the Philippines, which also carries a star for hostile territory. This is my insignia, being Chief Forest's mate. This is a Seabee insignia, and this is the replica flag. This over here on the top, that's the ruptured duct. That was your discharge pin.
Okay, here's some more material that I'm sure you'd love to share.
How would you like to have 10 cents? Here's Japanese invasion money. Grab it. For the United States.
Now, we're not really sure. See if I can get a little scope of that. There we are. Not really sure what that was for. You notice that's in English. Must have been put together by the American government, I would guess.
No, that's by the Japanese government.
Oh, yeah?
That's Japanese invasion money.
They had big plans.
You mentioned about this invasion, but you mentioned Hawaii when you said it.
Yeah.
You're going back now to the beginning of the war,
Right.
when this was the brainchild of...
The Japanese. Maybe they
Never
thought
seen anything like that.
maybe they thought they was going to get into Hawaii or into the Aleutians or something like that, which all belonged to the United States. And that was the money. Maybe even the United States proper. Here's a picture of me.
Why don't you just stand it on the stationary document?
Now, you spoke of being, when you mustered out, you were a chief.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 years earlier, you had come in as a seaman recruit.
Yeah,
That's a pretty fast elevation through the ranks, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Well, to the Seabees, we had 2 chiefs, but they didn't last very long. They changed duties. And I run the whole thing for them. I did the work of the chief. So the doctor got lieutenant commander, and he had to go to Manila for it. And then when he come back, he brought me a chief insignia. And he says, "Here, Willie, you wear it."
Mm-hmm.
So he get that. Here's our church I was telling you about.
Right on this.
Yeah, you know where that is. That's where the that preacher would say Mass for everyone.
This was the religious building, church. I think you mentioned it was the Catholic Church at the time. And this is where the priest functioned as the clergy for all of the different religious,
denominations, yeah.
including those living on the island.
Yeah. Here's a picture of our hospital or dispensary.
This is the dispensary. I assume you built that building.
Not me.
No?
They did. Here is something.
Now this is kind of interesting. I never saw this before, but why don't you tell us a little bit about this V-gram
This is called V-mail.
or V-mail?
You would write it out or send a card to somebody, and they would take a picture of it, and then this had be on a tape, you know, like a movie tape. And then when they got a whole bunch of them like that, they would put them on a plane, send it back to the United States, and then they would print it in the United States and mail them out.
The address is up on the top here, and then the picture, and then the message is on the bottom. I've never seen something like that.
That's it.
I think you have some awards there, or your achievements that...
This is for becoming a lab technician from Bethesda, Maryland. I had an 84.50 average, which was good in them days. And this was American Medical Association of Technologists recognized it. When that school was the only one that didn't have to take a test.
All right, you had some other things here I thought were quite interesting. At the beginning of our discussion, you showed me a kind of a road map. Pat, I'm going to hold this up so they can see it on the camera.
Oh, okay.
Maybe if I pull it back a little bit, you can you see that, Jim? Steve?
Yes.
Sorry.
This is San Francisco here, going all the way down, over the equator, all the way around.
That's when you went down the troop ship?
On the troop ship, all the way down to New Caledonia, Milne Bay, and we changed ships there. And we come all the way around through here to Finch Haven. It was like a staging area. He's there for a few weeks. And then we went from there, we went in, when they invaded Hollandia, New Guinea. That's where we went by boat. And after we went around there, we went around over Leyte and around into Mindoro in the Philippines.
And that's where you ended up in Manila.
That's when they ended up, then after the war, ended up in Manila. Which was that.
Oh, you had a couple things in here that I thought were worth mentioning here. What is this little thing?
Or you want to show that too?
I don't know if that will come up, but this is the troop ship and the Finch Haven, if you can, island that he referred to. Boy, it looks kind of desolate.
That was the electroliner which they converted. Because electroliner American, they converted it and called it the West Point.
Okay, what is this?
This was given to me by the Australians. It says New Guinea 1944. It's made out of shells.
This part here is the projectile, and is this just part of the casing that was?
I think that's part of the casing.
Okay. This is labeled here, New Guinea 1944. I don't know if you can make that out. It's kind of clever. And then this material, tell us what that is.
You guys eat pineapples. This is pineapple cloth. It was made in the Philippines. Give it to me.
And then you had another book here.
This is a book that
It's probably going to be hard to get all of this in, but essentially it was
a book that my mother kept.
his mother kept of his service record, pictures, personal pictures, letters, times that he came home on leave, and little mementos that she kept, that she received from him during the war. That was kind of interesting, Pat. I enjoyed walking through that. Now, this is well, you're going to have to help me here. I don't know what this is.
Okay, for all you polywogs that had to get across the equator, this is the certificate for becoming a shellback.
Oh, okay. I guess it's quite an elaborate procedure.
Yes. But there was so many of us that just didn't do much of anything.
Okay. Well, Pat, I enjoyed your discussion with us.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about?
Yeah, there's two things.
Okay,
On the way back, did I tell you that I had a birthday for 47 hours? I crossed the international date line on my birthday. And while I was overseas, I got the crazy idea that I was going to get married. So I proposed to my wife by letter. She accepted. And the marriage didn't last very long, only 54 years. And that was very good, and thank you, gentlemen.
thank you very much, Pat, for your presentation to us.